What I can actually do now as well, maybe, is to try to ask ChatGPT if it can also solve the last day or not. Because we already did it for all the other days, so it would be nice to see if it's capable of such a feat. But I am not really confident that it will be able to solve this, because it's a complex problem and it's kind of probabilistic unless you do it this hacky way, which kind of requires you to understand the input structure. So it's maybe gonna be too tricky for ChatGPT to solve. So let's see what happens. I will copy the problem description and put it here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's doing the right thing, doing the components and representing the graph and finding the critical edges. But because those edges are free of them, it might be more complicated than that. So let's see what happens. Oh, it didn't solve it. It just stopped. Not sure why. Usually it just executes against the input. So let's let it do its thing. Okay, so it's executing and it's not finishing. Apparently, some kind of timeout is gonna happen. So usually when there is a infinite loop, when there is a timeout in ChatGPT's execution, it's usually the infinite loop somewhere happening. So I'm guessing here they are doing some kind of infinite loop, or the processing is just not as fast as it would like to because the input is kind of big, so it might not be finishing in time. Right, so far nothing. Yeah, so it froze in it timed out inside of the while. So apparently, so it's now gonna try a heuristic approach to find critical edges. Instead of finding the correct solution, it will try to find the best possible solution that's possible in that time and figure out the solution this way. We'll see if that works. And again, it's doing the same thing as it did last time, where it outputs the code for the solution and then executes it separately, which is kind of odd. That wasn't happening before. Oh, and we have a 0 here. So what I have to give it to the author of Advent of Code, that most of the problems this year were barely solvable or even impossible to solve by ChatGPT as it is right now. It wasn't able to solve those problems. Often it was because the the problem required understanding of the input's format or of some particular quality of that input that nudged you in one direction, one specific way of solving it, which would not be a universal solution, but applied to the specific input. So that's one reason why ChatGPT failed often. And the second reason is that the input format was often so specific and complex that ChatGPT just wasn't able to understand how to read it correctly, and it often failed to see some small nuance that just made the whole input incorrect when it read it itself. So it's usually let's run this, but it didn't run it actually. Interesting. Continue. So ChatGPT usually just gave up then, and it tried several times to fix the input reading, and it failed because it wasn't parsing it correctly. It was misunderstanding some condition or some specific part of the input or some way it was formatted, and it just wasn't able to solve things. So I think the input and input parsing and input understanding were the main hurdles that ChatGPT had for most of the advent of code problems. And we will see if that improves with some future versions of ChatGPT, but at least for now, it's not definitely replacing our jobs, because when it finally arrived to the right solution of many of the problems, it was after several nudges from me to steer it in the right direction or tell it what the problem was. And that is not something you can do if you want to rely just on AI, because you need to have someone steering the wheel and telling AI what to do or correcting its approach. So at least for now, most of the problems of advent of code were beyond ChatGPT's reach. So as well as this day 25, it just doesn't give me the solution so far, and it's just giving zeros, which is a common occurrence among the advent of code problems, that result was often 0, and sometimes ChatGPT even thought that 0 was the right solution, which definitely wasn't. So, yeah. Anyway, I think we're done here. So thank you very much for joining this short Advent of Code session where we finally finished Advent of Code 2023. I will be making more videos with programming puzzles and even specific tutorials or .NET for .NET developers. Especially, I will be doing some interesting videos. So if you are a .NET developer or just a developer who wants to learn problem solving or improve in problem solving, subscribe to my channel, because there will be more coming. And of course, when December comes, I will be doing this whole thing again. So I'm already looking forward, because it's just 5 months to go for another Advent of Code. Yeah, so thank you again. Have a great day. Happy coding, and I will see you in the next live coding session. Bye bye.